guilty parties. So, if your name is called, if your agency's name is called, your company's name is called, you're involved in the cover-up and the abuse of this child. It's a long list. Multnomah County, Judge David F. Reese, Judge Adrian Nelson, Judge Jean K. Maurer, James N. Callahan of Callahan and Shears PC, Scott Kocher, Richard Vangeleschi, Vangeleschi Kocher LLP, Washington County, Nike, Phil Knight, Stoll Reeves, Amy Joseph Pedersen, PK Runkles Pearson, Todd Burkholder, Amy McQuiston, Rex Burkholder, Providence St. Vincent's Hospital, Providence Health Services, Oregon Health and Science University, Dr. Joseph E. Robertson, Oregon Emergency Physicians, Dr. Julie Andrews, Dr. Sarah Tubingstein, Nancy Gordon-Zorling, Dr. David R. Salons, State Farm Fire and Casualty Company, Beth Fitch, Susan O'Leary, Portland Public Schools, Rudy R. Lockenmeyer and Roll and Heinsohn, Betsy Fernley, Judge Dale R. Koch, Judge Michael McShane, John Barker, Susan Glosser, City of Portland, Portland Police Bureau, Sam Adams, Rosie Sizer, Michael Reese, Sergeant Dan Liu, Officer Mulberry, Officer Herbert Miller, Officer John Eckhart, Officer Brett Smith, Charlie G. Jenkins, Verducci Chowdhury, Keely West, Jacob Weigler, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, long list, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Agent Glenn G. Norling, Oregon State Bar, Scott A. Morrill, Sylvia E. Stevens, Judge Donald R. Letourneau, Andy Simran, Judge Woolheim, Judge Schulman, Ellen Rosenblum, Judge Halston, Judge Armstrong, Judge Duncan, Chief Judge Paul J. Muniz, the Oregon Medical Board, Mitra Shari, Oregon Department of Justice, Oregon Department of Human Services, John Kroger, Dwight C. Holton, Multnomah County District Attorney, CARES, Northwest, and many other unknown and unnamed individuals. If I called your name, you know that this child was burned, and you know that you are involved in covering it up. And we are asking for these agencies to come out and make a statement. We are asking for Governor Brown to come out and make a statement. On April 12, 2007, our daughter was staying the night at a supposed friend's house. She was coerced to play a naked game. They called it Little House on the Prairie. That's what they said. The father boiled up a kettle of scalding water and gave it to the mother, who burned our naked child. Then they wrapped her in a towel and they stuffed her in their basement for an undisclosed amount of time. Wow. The perpetrators, Todd Burkholder and Amy McQuiston, contacted their politician brother, Rex Burkholder, to make sure that our daughter got no treatment and no investigation, because they did not want to be criminally prosecuted for child abuse. So when we picked up our daughter that night, I called to say goodnight to her, and they had to admit to me that she was burned. I came to their house, and I was led down a dark hallway, down a dark flight of stairs, and I found my naked naked, burned up daughter on a couch in their basement. My husband and I took her to the emergency department at Providence St. Vincent's, where we were seen for approximately 17 minutes. They drugged her and they wrapped up the wound. That's it. They didn't put a blood pressure cuff on her. They didn't do anything for her. She couldn't walk. She couldn't walk. She was in severe shock. And they literally just put her in her dad's arms and said, leave. In the following days, she was seen at OHSU 2 more times, where they did exactly the same thing. They told us to go to the medical store and get some bandages and Silvadine and deal with a massive traumatic injury on our own. The burn was diagnosed at 10 to 20% of her body. Via their own diagnosis, she should have been hospitalized. And via mandatory reporting laws, the police and DHS were supposed to be called immediately. None of this happened, and we still don't know why. It's been almost 14 years. Now, what's mostly concerning is I hear the word systemic racism being tossed around here in Portland, but how does systemic racism work? How does it work? Everybody gets involved. So all the names on this list, they are all guilty because they all knew what was supposed to happen, and they made sure that it didn't. And they made sure it didn't happen to frustrate and upset our family. And not just that, they could have caused the death of this child. Still have no idea how she lived through this because she got no treatment. She was sent home to suffer and die against the law. And we have continually, my husband and I, for 14 years, we put this in front of law enforcement here in Oregon, and they do nothing. And then we've gone and we filed complaint after complaint saying you are covering up the abuse of this child. And they still do nothing. Because what happens when the authorities commit crimes? Nothing. Nothing. Because the general public doesn't understand how to hold these people accountable. I am still trying to figure out how to hold these people accountable because I can't make enough people care. But it's a huge problem because people are being set in front of these judges every single day, and these people are criminals. I just read a long list of names that included lots of judges in this community who are literally involved right now in covering up a heinous crime against a child. Can you imagine a burn on your body, 10 to 20%, and no medicine, no doctor to treat you, no nothing? Our daughter suffered horribly under this. And every single law that should have protected her did not protect her. And I could possibly offer some reasons as to why they weren't protecting her, but it wouldn't matter because there's no excuse. Does it matter that it was a politician's relatives that were involved in abusing her? No, it shouldn't matter. Does it matter? I think some of you heard me call out Nike. Does it matter that my husband had filed Equal Employment Opportunity Commission claims against the company after he was sexually assaulted on the world campus? Does that matter? Should that have affected our system? Should that have made it so a little girl suffered? No, it shouldn't have. So we're down here every single Friday to talk about this because this is a problem in our city. We cannot allow our public institutions to be this corrupt. Why is Portland falling apart? Why is Portland falling apart? Portland is falling apart because public institutions are rotten to the core. And it's time that we had a serious discussion about it. It's pretty pathetic that the news media won't cover this case. I think it's pretty pathetic that there's no law enforcement down here to be found, because there are two distressed parents down here. I am distressed that my daughter was not cared for in this system, and I've written multiple letters, and I've talked to multiple people about this, and I filed multiple legal claims that have all been thrown out. They just pretend it didn't happen. They don't want to prosecute guilty individuals who are authority. It's just ignored. So we're going to be coming down here every Friday to discuss the corruption in this city, to discuss the corruption in this nation. We need a complete overhaul of our system.
Okay. Here's the problem. Our society can't bear this amount of corruption. Why is the corruption going on? Well, because they're saying that we don't matter. Why don't we matter? I'll tell you why we don't matter. Because they say we don't matter. Why are they saying we don't matter? We are the people. We are the power. We're the reason why society is turning. That's us.
And does your government have a right to ignore you? Does your government have a right to rip rights from you?
You are the power. We are the power together. They're going to continue to tell us that we don't matter as long as we allow it. As soon as we come together and say that's not the case, all of this changes. It's up to us. It's up to you and me.
I think what's most concerning about what happened to our daughter is how many people are not concerned that the law was not followed. What have we agreed to here? We've agreed to all follow these laws. And when someone breaks the law, well, we expect there to be a process. Well, what happens when it's the people in charge breaking the law? Do we make exceptions? Do we say it's fine that Governor Brown isn't looking at us? We're okay with our government covering up? So we're down here just to keep calling it out. And I don't know how long it's going to take to get an investigation into what happened to our daughter, but she lives with lifelong injuries, and apparently nobody's responsible. Hospitals aren't responsible for not. The hospitals are not responsible for not treating her. The police and DHS aren't responsible for not doing their job. The teachers that did her abuse, nobody's responsible. The people who abused her aren't responsible. And what's concerning is look how many people just walk on by. Oh well, my government's corrupt. Nothing I can do about that. You know, here we are in the middle of Portland's living room reporting a crime. This is our fourth weekend here, fourth Friday here. And where's the police? Where's the FBI? They're not worried about any of that. All they're worried about is the show. All they're worried about, I see it in the paper, oh, it's gonna be this, election violence. They're concerned about. They're not concerned about our elected officials actually committing crimes. They're not concerned about all the people piling up in the streets. down here every Friday from 2 to 4 discussing this. Because it's, especially if our governor and our mayor and Joanne Hardesty and all these other movements, we want to talk systemic racism. What does it look like? It looks like when you're a person of color, when you go everywhere for help, they don't help you. And because there's nowhere to complain to. There's no one to tell. What's sad is this is what we've had to resort to, because all these agencies that we went to were useless. When my husband was harassed at work, when he was physically assaulted at his job at Nike, when he went to the Equal Opportunity Commission, they made sure that they helped the company get rid of him. When our daughter was abused and we took her to the hospital, they basically tried to kill her. They said, take your 8-year-old, 59-pound child home and deal with a massive traumatic injury on your own. And every complaint we filed, when we tried to talk to the hospitals, tried to talk to Providence St. Vincent's, tried to talk to OHSU, tried to be reasonable, rational, sit down with them, well, they just say they're not going to talk to us about it, and that they don't have to talk to us about it. Why would you say that to a parent who's asking you questions about their child's lack of care, or care at all? OHSU, when my daughter tried to ask why her burn wasn't treated, they told her that if she asks any more questions about it, they're going to arrest me, her mother. So you should be able to go to a medical establishment and talk to them about whether they cared for you or whether they did not care for you.
Things have to change. They can't stay this way. And if we have to be out here every single Friday until they do, that's what we're going to do. That's what our commitment is. The way things change is for us to come together and say, no. See what they want you to believe? They want you to believe that you have some kind of choice. So they give you your choice. You can go with either Tweedledee or Tweedledum. That's your choice. Is Biden everyone's president? Not everyone that actually wanted him. He was Tweedledee.
And it's just a distraction, because at the end of the day, our system is completely broken. We watched our child fall completely through it. Every law that had been put into place to protect her failed.
This was a cavern. It wasn't just a crack. This wasn't just one doctor. It wasn't just one judge. It wasn't just one politician. This was every single body that we contacted.
And we've contacted a lot of people trying to get this resolved. And nobody will take responsibility for just this. So I don't know what else they're up to.
Where's the media? Where's the media? You have not read about our story in any newspaper. You have not seen it on the news because they don't want you to know about it. They have the power.
And they don't want you to ask questions about it.
They can keep you in the dark. If it doesn't serve them, they can keep you in the dark. This is the only way that we can get out there and talk to you. We got a little Facebook group going on. We get censored there too. They have control over the information that we need to help each other.
And people need to know if their elected officials and their authorities are corrupt. You need to know that there are doctors that are willing to falsely report child abuse, and there are doctors who are willing to hide child abuse. And in our case, when we ran into a lot of doctors that were willing to hide this crime because they didn't want to see the people who committed it prosecuted. And we ran into attorneys and judges who were willing to hide this crime, an open, obvious crime, which they admitted to on paper, right here in the courthouse. They said they were playing Little House on the Prairie.
Right,
and then they burned this child up.
Multnomah County Courthouse, right there, in the circuit courts, right there.
They sat us down as her parents and made us listen to that. Do you know how infuriating that was? To listen to two people sit up on a stand, two white people, and say, yeah, we burned her. Yeah, we're not responsible. Do you know how it felt to have 12 white people come out and laugh at pictures of our burned up daughter? Laugh? And then award these people money?
That was called
It was
severe emotional infliction of emotional distress. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to get us to react violently.
our own government. They wanted us to react violently.
See, that's how they get to take away the moral authority. See, they give you the moral authority by doing something wrong to you, and then they expect you to take it back, and most people take the bait. Most people act violently.
Well, look, we watched it in the Capitol. Now everybody's committed a crime, right?
Now we don't have to listen to them, right?
The minute people get violent, well, then the government's in the right, because the government's never violent, right? They don't run wars or anything, do they?
But they've taken, we did not give them the moral authority back. We did not act violently. We did not hurt these people.
We do not believe in violence, and we would not behave violently.
But we do believe in justice. We do believe in justice.
And we believe in holding people accountable.
We believe that people should be responsible. And they should take accountability for what they've engaged in. That was their choice.
And I'm sorry, but every single person in this case, they made a decision to cover up a crime. And it's a crime to cover up a crime. And I'm positively disgusted at the media right now. KGW, Willamette Week, Scanner, KTU, what a bunch of phonies. What a bunch of phonies.
They're not telling you, they're not giving you the news.
Yeah.
They're giving you what they want you to hear.
They want you to come down to the Capitol and be violent. They don't want you to come here and hear about the crimes that they're involved in covering up. That's a problem. Because where are they leading people to? What is this really all about?
Is it okay for your government to be covering up crimes against you? Is that okay? Because we don't think so. These are the laws that they put into place. All of a sudden, it doesn't matter when they commit crimes against those same laws.
And what are they trying to do to me and my husband? They're trying to erase us.
Bury us.
They're trying to make it seem like we do not exist. That this child, Kadira Stevens, did not suffer the injuries that she suffered.
But she did.
But she did. We all exist, and we exist here in Portland. And it's time to stand up to our government because they have a lot of control right now. They're telling you to shut down your business.
They're telling you you need a vaccine.
They're telling you a lot of things.
Can you trust these people? I don't think so.
That's my question. Can I trust them? Because I've tried to ask them what happened in this situation. And nobody can offer an explanation.
There's no explanation. They did try a little bit, but they realized that as soon as it sounded so ridiculous, they stopped talking, and they won't talk to us anymore.
One of the things that they like to say is that they like to ask us, why didn't we call the police? Well, I want to be really clear. When you walk into an emergency room with a child with a suspicious injury, our child was naked with a massive traumatic injury on her leg. We were in and out in 17 minutes. That is not possible. Did you want to talk, Addie? I'm going to have Addie come up and talk a little bit about what should have happened. What should have happened at the hospitals?
Okay, so I want to give some information about what's supposed to happen if a child comes with a suspicious injury and what is considered a suspicious injury. A suspicious injury, according to Carley's Law, is a burn or scald, extensive bruising or abrasions of any part of the body, fractures, multiple fractures, loss of the ability to walk or move normally, So when this child comes in with how much percent of her body burned?
10 to 20%.
They are automatically supposed to suspect that there was abuse involved. That means they were supposed to call CPS, 1. 2, they were supposed to get law enforcement involved and make a report. And none of that was done. This child was in and out of the emergency room in 17 minutes. Why wasn't there a CPS report made? That is by law, by Oregon Carly's law, you have to make a report to CPS. However, I just want to share a little bit of my own story. My child, we accidentally fell down the stairs with her, had a broken bone, and they automatically accused us of abuse. They didn't do any testing on my daughter. They didn't do anything that they were supposed to do and said this was abuse. But because this child was at a local politician's house, they decided to cover it all up, didn't make a police report, didn't make a CPS report. Where is CPS right now? They're supposed to protect children, right? Where are they? Where's the cops? When there's abuse, you're supposed to charge somebody criminally. Why isn't this person in jail? Why are they still free right now? So again, I just want to reiterate, if a child that comes into the emergency room or a doctor's office has burns or scalds, you can look it up yourself. It's called Carly's Law. K-A-R-L-Y-S. Carly's Law. They are supposed to, by law, make a report to the designated medical professional, which in the local Portland metro area is CARES Northwest. A child abuse pediatrician is supposed to make the determination if this was child abuse or not. A child abuse pediatrician never even laid eyes on this child. By law, that is what they are supposed to do. CARES Northwest, look them up. If you have children that you love, CARES Northwest. You're a single mother, look up CARES Northwest. Are you black? You better look up CARES Northwest. I'm telling you, these people are racist to the core. If you're a single mother, I'm telling you, these are statistics that I looked up myself on the internet. You can find them yourself. If you have children that are medically fragile, that puts you at risk of being abusive. If you're receiving government assistance, you don't have supportive family or extended family, you have 4+ kids, that all puts you at risk of being an abusive parent. Other risk factors, according to child welfare, include poverty, single parenthood, low maternal or paternal education, teen pregnancy, low infant birth rate, and domestic violence. So if you were in a DV situation, you better count your blessings if you still have your children, because they're most likely going to take your kids. But if you go in with a burned child because a local politician did it, then nothing's going to happen. Nobody's going to care. They're just going to be like, no big deal. Just go put some bandages on her. She'll be fine. She'll live. It's just a 2nd-degree burn. No big deal.
That's literally what they told us. Several doctors told us there wasn't a big deal. You can go ahead and take care of her at your house. She doesn't need to be hospitalized.
Yeah, I don't need to call CPS or nothing. Not that I have to do it by law or anything.
She doesn't need any fluids to stabilize her. She doesn't need wound debridement.
How ridiculous is that? You mean to tell me anybody here that has children, you're going to walk into the emergency room and you're going to be okay with somebody telling you, nah, just take your kid home, she's fine. Just a little 2nd-degree burn.
See, the law, it works for them. When it's convenient, the law works for them. When they have to fill a quota, the law works. When they're putting away minorities, when they're putting away poor people, the law works. It works for them. The law never works for us. When does the law work for us? When we're wronged by the government. When does the law work for us? And we're being wronged by the government every single day. Why are they telling us that we don't matter? Why do they think they can get away with doing this to us? Because they've made us believe that we don't matter. They have made us believe that we don't matter. Let that sink in. When you think to yourself, what matters? What do you think of? I bet you're not thinking that you matter. What matters? Well, money matters, right? That's what matters. If you got money, then you can make everything happen. That's why everybody wants it, right?
Absolutely. How much money do you have to hide the abuse that you're doing? That's what it comes down to at this state.
Well, my wife and I believe that our daughter Ted was worth $100 million. And that's how much Phil Knight paid to make sure that the entire state covered abuse. That's what we believe, and that's why they don't want to talk about it.
What I can tell you, what we do know about our daughter's case, is that on October 29th, 2008, the police said that they would never investigate. And on October 29th, 2008, that was just also happens to be the same day that Phil Knight gave OHSU a $100 million grant, which they eventually used to put up the Phil Knight Cancer Institute. What you all don't know is my husband was in court with Nike by himself for 9 years. 9 years. Race discrimination, sexual harassment.
Sex discrimination.
Sex discrimination. He was a man. His male co-worker.
No, he was he was a senior designer over me.
I'll let you tell the story.
So this man, his name is Randy Wolf. He actually designed some of Tiger Woods' first shoes. So I became a footwear designer at Exeter Brands Group after coming from Nike as a footwear color designer. I was excited. I'd always wanted to be a footwear designer, so this was my opportunity. When I went there, Randy Wolf, he attacked some guy. His name was Corey McCullough. He was designers. He dry humped him right in front of me.
This was on the World Nike campus.
Yeah, this was at the World headquarters in Beaverton.
This was in 2007 as well.
This guy, he dry humped Corey twice in front of me. I believe I was being groomed. He tried to do it to me. I was able to push him off. I told him he's not going to be doing that to me. And when I complained to my boss, Mac McDivitt, it seemed like he was taking it seriously. Then he took it to the head of HR at Exeter at the time. Her name was Mary Brunke. And she was like, she laughed. That was her first response to my complaint. She laughed at me. They did a 3-day investigation and they found that nothing happened.
Well, actually they found something happened. They just sent you back to work, Randy.
All I wanted to do was, I did not want to work with this man anymore. I did not feel comfortable around him. He did try to fill me up after I complained. I wind up filing an EEOC charge against Nike. I couldn't find an attorney to help me. I pursued the case on my own pro se. I filed several charges of discrimination, also a charge of retaliation.
The thing is Nike actually gave my husband a letter admitting to what happened. So he turned that over to the EEOC, and that just started a whole thing.
So, because I was pursuing Nike, they shut down Exeter. They had no intention of shutting down Exeter for real. But they shut down Exeter because I was suing them just so they could get rid of me. They wanted me to sign a release of claims for my severance agreement, but I had open charges against them. So I filed another charge of retaliation. Well, they had to leave Exeter shut down. And my boss told me that it was really hard to pull out of all those agreements that they made with Payless and Walmart. They completely shut Exeter down because I was suing them for retaliation. Well, I don't think Phil was happy about that. As a matter of fact, I think that Phil was upset enough to make sure that my daughter, who was a victim of child abuse by Rex Burkholder, well, he wanted to make sure that she was gonna die. Because that is exactly what OHSU was trying to do. They were trying to kill her. She was 59 pounds, she was 8 years old. She had a massive burn on her leg, 10 to 20%.
We couldn't even get CARES Northwest to give her an evaluation.
She was never stabilized. They did not stabilize her at the hospital.
And CARES Northwest, who's supposed to come in and help abused kids, they said, no, it's totally fine to play naked games with little kids and burn them with tea kettles. We won't even see your daughter. We won't even see your daughter. Yet this woman here, her child had a broken arm, and her family was broken up because of that.
Her husband is behind bars right now, as we speak.
Because he fell down the stairs with the baby in his arms. He's a veteran, has cancer. They took her family and busted her family apart, but when we walked into the hospital and a politician's head was on the line, guess what? Nothing.
Nothing.
So, when my husband filed suit against Nike, they came after our family with a vengeance. They wanted to know all about what happened with our daughter. So, that's kind of how they became involved.
Fortunately, we wisened up. We started looking into what OHS was doing after a civil trial, which was not supposed to be a civil trial, should have been a criminal trial. We didn't understand that back then. But Scott Kocher was the attorney that we got to help our daughter, to help us figure this out. And it turns out that he was working for Rex Burkholder.
He was friends with Rex, he was friends with the law firm defending Nike. And when they took us to that trial, we believed that they meant to destabilize us. Because they sat us down, two distressed parents. We were very young at the time. I think he was 28, I was 29. He'd lost his job, we were losing everything. Our daughter had been the victim of abuse. We walk into this courtroom and these white people sit there and they say that they were playing Naked Little House on the Prairie with our daughter and that they burned her and that they take no responsibility, and everybody just sits there and laughs, okay?
And 12 white people on this jury come back after like
10 minutes.
It was 10 minutes
And
tops
laughing.
of deliberation. Not negligent at all. These people did not get any kind of responsibility or accountability directed towards them.
They never even had to speak to a police officer. The man that burned our daughter, I think him and his wife, the wife that did the burning, they eventually got divorced, but he still lives in our neighborhood, just 3 blocks away.
These people are at large.
He carried on with his life.
These child abusers.
And
And who knows how many other kids he's abused.
In our neighborhood, because he was allowed. We actually have neighbors who come out and defend these people. They say it was okay that they were playing naked with 2 8-year-olds.
Is that okay?
They say it was okay and that we're mean for bringing this up. How dare we talk about this?
They say it's some kind of vendetta. This is not a vendetta. We are seeking justice.
And
We need these
tampering with
people to be held accountable for what they did.
Right. Tampering with the legal system is not a joke. Judges being paid off is not a joke.
Doctors being paid off. That's not a joke.
Or doctors being paid to say a child was abused or whatever. That's not okay.
That should not be going on in 2021.
And I question, what is going on in Oregon hospitals, because there's a huge child sex slave trade going up and down the I-5. And what happens when an injured child goes to certain hospitals and is presented to certain doctors? Because what I saw with my child is that these doctors, I mean, she could have died from infection and shock. She couldn't even walk. They didn't even know if she was going to be able to walk.
They actually had.
After when they sent us packing, and we had no idea.
They actually had.
We had no idea. The thing is, what's scary is after our daughter was burned, and we went to the hospital and they didn't treat her, we didn't even understand that she hadn't been treated. Even though we left there with nothing, except for her and her wrapped up leg, which was wrapped from literally here to here.
They actually had blood tests that showed that she was internal distress, and they didn't tell us. They told us that she had anxiety, and they gave her an inhaler. They did not tell us that she was going into organ failure.
There were so many times actually with our daughter that we presented at the hospital with very suspicious injuries. Because after she was burned, she had all kinds of problems. She had breathing problems. Her skin was really mottled. She was very disfigured. Like he said, they took 8 blood tests 8 months after she was burned that showed she was in severe internal distress. They said nothing to us. They didn't give us those records.
We found those records in her attorney's files.
He'd been hiding them from us.
After we threatened to call the police on him, after he threw her case in court.
I mean, she was seen in the emergency room in organ failure just 4 years later, and with a massive fracture because her right leg snapped in half because she now has osteopenia due to her untreated burn. There's so many laws that were broken around Kadira, and I really believe that we need to look at every single case right now, because our judges are not doing their job. And what really concerns me is we live in this society where people think, oh, something went to court, so like God looked at it. No, these judges are just people, and they will be paid off.
They're criminals. They are criminals. And they're telling you, they want you to believe that you don't matter.
People need to start telling these stories of judicial corruption and corruption in the legal system. We're coming out and telling our story because what they did to her, they left her with nothing. She has lifetime injuries and nobody is responsible.
You need to understand that the courts are where your rights happen. And they have control of the courts. They can tell you whether or not you have rights. And they do it all the time. They did it to us. Every single constitutional law that we tried to bring into play, they just said, no, sorry, you don't get that right.
And one of the ways they do it is by burying people. We're out here every Friday now, but we've been something that has been going on under everybody's nose for years. 14 years we've been fighting behind the scenes for our daughter, for justice for our daughter.
14 years they have been denying us justice, and they can't.
And for 14 years we also fought to get my husband's career back, which he did not get back. So when we're talking about, I just hate it because I see our governor and our mayor and oh, we're so committed to helping people of color and we're setting up this equity thing. And
that's a lie.
And it's all lies.
It's all lies.
You know, all my husband wanted was to be able to work at his job without being sexually assaulted by his senior advisor. And no, that was not acceptable. You know, he was supposed to bend over in a closet. That's what Nike expected of him. Nike, the great Nike, right? You know, what's the point of all these laws if we're not going to follow any of them? I mean, if people of color, if they're left going to the Equal Opportunity Commission just to have their, you know, job ripped away from them for complaining, well, what is that? Because that's what happened to my husband. They told him at the Equal Opportunity Commission, they said, Nike cannot fire you as long as you have an open claim. And all my husband was asking was to be moved away. And guess what? They let Nike fire him while he had an open claim.
They didn't do anything.
They didn't do anything.
They gave me a right to sue, but a right to sue doesn't really matter if you can't get an attorney.
And there wasn't one single attorney in this town that would help my husband. And there's not one single attorney in this town, or maybe in this nation, that will help our daughter. Because they're so busy covering up for these criminal judges.
Actually, let me take that back. There was one attorney, her name's Mitra Shari. She took my case on. She told me I had a great case, everything was there. And 10 days before my right to sue ended, she dropped me on my ass. She told me, for no reason at all, she wasn't gonna pursue my case. Where did that leave me? I didn't even have time to go try and find another attorney.
And he had a letter from Nike stating that these things occurred, and that it's just they said they had handled the situation.
This was another way that they were covering up what happened to me. Obviously, they paid off Mitra. You know, Nike has a lot of money. Nike can pay off whoever they want, right? They can pay off the state. They can pay off every single judge that talks to us. They can pay off the police.
But is that okay? Is it okay? Are we saying that corporations get to do whatever they want?
Because they have money? I don't think so.
That's another thing. You know, not only did our daughter's attorney, because we did get, the other attorney we did get was Scott Kocher, and he helped our daughter off a cliff. He also tried to help her family off a cliff. You know, he made sure she got nothing, but he came from the firm, Stoll Reeves, that was defending Nike, and he was also good friends with Rex Burkholder. So, what they did was set up a circumstance where they could inflict severe emotional distress on us. Why? Because they wanted us to come out here and do something stupid.
They wanted us to act violently. And you know what? We've talked to a lot of other people, and they said they would have already killed these people. In the courtroom, they probably would have tried to wring somebody's neck. That's not the kind of people we are. We don't believe in that.
We do practice pacifism, so we don't believe in violence, and that's why the media's not here.
But
the media's not here because nobody's going to be violent today, so they don't have to listen to a word we say, right? Well, we disagree.
We disagree with that wholeheartedly.
Because there's people being very much harmed, not just by the legal system, but the CPS system in particular. I'm very upset hearing this woman's story. Her husband should be out of jail right now. He did nothing wrong. He is a vet. He fought for this country.
He should have never went to jail in the first place. No, but I feel like he's a quota number.
They gotta fill a bed.
They gotta fill a bed. That's how they make their money.
But when they're not interested in filling the bed, they'll look the other way.
Yeah, they can look the other way easy.
In our daughter's situation, they've just been looking the other way this whole time, and it's an embarrassment, actually. I mean, where are the police? I heard the FBI set up a command post in Portland. It was all over the news. What a joke. The new guy said the law in Portland is top shelf.
Top shelf.
Top shelf? What is he talking about?
That is straight up bull. You know why they're top shelf? Because they're completely corrupt, and they're willing to do what the elites tell them. They're willing to do what the money tells them. They're not here to protect people. They're here to protect money.
Oh, here.
The amount of money that is flowing through the city is dirty. Who knows how many crimes they're covering up?
Do you know how much money Cares Northwest gets a year to evaluate abused children? In 2005, they got a $5 million gift from Anonymous. $5 million. Somebody just woke up one day and said, you know what? I'm just going to give these people $5 million just because. Their job is to look at children when they come in with any sort of suspicious injury, if there's been any report that there's been sexual abuse. They did not do that with Kadira. They didn't even want to look at her. They said, no, just get her out of here. She wasn't abused. How did they know she was abused when they didn't even look at her? That is what they get these grants for. to stop abuse, to end abuse. $5 million in 1 year. Yeah, that pays them. And these doctors, they work at OHSU. They live in the neighborhood. They know what they're doing. They know that they're leaving abused children in dangerous homes. They know that there's dangerous people out. But yet they choose to prosecute the innocent. It costs them about $1,500 to $3,000 per child, per head, to do this evaluation. All of this is money in their pockets to accuse you of abuse. You take your child in there, their statistics, if you look them up on caresnorthwest.org, you have a 50% chance of being told that you abused your child. But yet they would not even evaluate this child because it was a local politician. But I guarantee you, if it happened in her home, this would have been abused from the get-go. Call the police, call CPS, hurry up, we need to take this kid. They didn't even bother doing that for this politician.
Our system is the most broken because it protects the most powerful and it victimizes the most vulnerable. That's supposed to be the other way around. But because money matters so much to us, they're able to control everything that we do. We won't let go of it. We won't let go of this idea that we don't matter. That has to change. If you look around and you see somebody, you should be able to recognize that they are what is valuable, not what's in their wallet. There shouldn't even be money. We don't need money. Did you know that representational government was obsolete since the advent of the telephone? We don't really need a president. We don't need mayors. We don't need governors. That's not what we need. What we need is to be able to talk to each other and figure out the best way to take care of each other.
Especially if these people are just going to be complicit in covering up crimes. Because they just kind of do whatever they want. And then they say that they know what is best.
But they don't. They lie.
They inflict their suggestions onto us, but they're not even willing to reflect when something goes wrong. Like in this case with our daughter. They're not willing to take a good hard look at this case and ask themselves how something like this happened. They're not even willing to reevaluate the system that is completely broken. They're just pretending it didn't happen. They're pretending that all these people didn't get involved in covering up the abuse of this child. Some people will say it's a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. It's just what happened.
It's fact. It's plain fact, as a matter of fact.
We filed 551 pages of evidence and testimony. It's all there online.
Yeah, you can go to pacer.gov and you can look it up. Stevens versus Multnomah County.
Stevens versus Nike. You'll see it. It's all there. You've been being lied to by the media. They don't want you to know what's going on because they don't want you to question the system. But it is time to question the system.
It's time to question everything about the system.
You know, I'm reading articles about business owners that are being fined like $150,000 and stuff like that for opening their businesses. The governor's saying you committed a crime. Well, the governor's committing a crime by covering up a crime. She knows about this. They all do.
We contacted them all.
I've invited the police to this event. They're just babies. They're not going to come. You know, they're only going to go after people that they know that they can intimidate. And that's just poor people, people of color. Those are the people they're going to go after. Those are the people they're going to penalize. And they're going to invite you to violence every single day in the media.
They want you to be violent.
They want you to come down to the Capitol and smash a window or do something stupid like that, which you don't need to do.
They don't want you, the moral authority, they don't want you to retain your self-dignity. They don't want you to retain anything that makes you valuable. They don't want you to retain your humanity.
So that's why they talk about this stuff in the news. You know, oh, people are coming out, they're gonna be violent, they're gonna this, they're gonna that.
That's what they want you to believe.
But they don't want you talking about anything real. They don't want you talking about this. They don't want you talking about
The corruption that's going on in our government.
and the failures in our system. Because there are so many parents, I'm hooking up with so many parents now who have had their children unjustly removed for way less than what my daughter experienced. I mean, they're just in shock that not only was the family who abused Kadira not put through an investigation, that our family didn't go through an investigation. Nothing happened in this case with our daughter because they were busy trying to cover it up. But how many other cases of abuse are they covering up?
How many other crimes are they covering up? How many other crimes that they are directly involved in have they covered up?
And how many times do they accuse somebody of abuse, find out they're innocent, but just decide that they're going to just stay the course and fill the prison bed because they can make money? All of the cases in our system need to be reevaluated. These judges are not just human, so they're prone to error. A lot of them are also just straight up criminals, and they're gonna take a fat white envelope when they can, because the money is enticing. That's what everybody wants. So we need to be very careful because judges have something called judicial immunity. They can make whatever decision they want. And
They won't be held liable, not in any way. They're
even
not
if
going to jail. They're not going to get fined. They're not even going to get talked to at all. And that's not okay.
like the Judicial Board of Fitness, that place is a joke. You file a complaint on a judge, it's just judges that look at that and they throw it out because they protect their friends. Same thing with the Oregon State Bar. Rarely will an attorney be reprimanded for harming a client. Like the guy that represented our daughter, Scott Kocher, he's a child abuse attorney right now in this state. He works for the Foreign Law Group. And
He's a child abuse attorney.
I filed a 2-page complaint on that guy after what he did to my daughter. He lied the entire time. He said he didn't report her abuse. He didn't explain to me what these people were up to. He knew way before we did. He made sure to hide everything from us until this very bizarre trial where these people admitted to a federal crime on the stand and were exonerated, I guess. Although I firmly believe it was their friends on the jury, and if the FBI would look into it, I'm sure that's what they'd find.
Corruption. But that's why the FBI hang up on us. Because they don't want to investigate their friends. Or maybe they're just being straight up paid off. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it's illegal. I can tell you that right now. It's nothing that should be going on. This has to stop. We have to take a serious look at our society. It's broken. The bigger issue is, I don't think that it was ever designed to work. And that's why we're up here. Because we know that now. And we can't just stand by silently as we watch our entire society blow up. That's what we're headed for. We're headed for civil war. They're inciting violence. That gives them the power. That gives the president the power. Pretty soon there's going to be the Insurrection Act enacted. We're going to be treated like criminals in our own country. That's what they want. They can control us as long as we agree to it. And that's what we're doing. When we engage in violence, when we collect guns with the intent of hurting other people, that's what we're giving them. We're giving them the right to tell us that we need somebody telling us what to do, how to live. Don't fall for that. Instead, it's our voice that matters. It's our voice that matters. And when we speak together, that's when the power is greater. When we agree, and that's all we have to do is agree. We need to agree that this isn't working. We need to agree that there are too many people suffering. We need to agree that corporations are not people. We need to agree that money does not matter and that people do.
I think that's the key lesson here for us is, when all of this happened to us, it was just, you don't matter. That's what we heard from everybody.
That's what they wanted us to believe.
And that's why we wear these shirts. They say, I am the value, because it helps us remember that we are valuable and that we do matter and that our story does matter.
And that is your protection. That's your protection against this darkness, this evil that's come over our world. You need to understand that you are what is valuable. There is nothing else more valuable than you. And when you recognize that about yourself, when you see that in other people, that's our power, and it will grow. That agreement will grow. Our power will grow.
The more of us that come together and start telling our stories, start understanding that our society is falling down because we're just letting corruption reign. That's when we can start working this out. Because the people in charge, they don't know what they're doing. And that's why our society looks like this. That's why there's bodies in the streets. That's why none of our institutions that are supposed to help us actually help us.
We need to help each other now. We can't depend on people who are dishonest. We can't trust them. Do you really believe you can trust the vaccine right now? I bet you. The vaccines were made to make money, not to make people healthy. I can guarantee that to you right now. And they don't care if it kills people. If they can lie to us about this, they can lie to you about that.
And they're lying to you about this right now because they're not going to cover this. You are not going to see justice for Kadira in the news. It would take a massive crowd for the news to cover this. And right now, well, as you can see, we don't have a massive crowd. Because right now, not enough people care that their government is corrupt.
But I'll tell you what we do have. We have the truth. And we're going to keep on speaking about it until there are enough people who are willing to stand with us and say no more.
Because people are relying on these institutions. People are relying on what we have set up here to help them. When somebody experiences something horrible at their job, they're relying on the Equal Opportunity Commission to be there to help facilitate and work out their problems. People are relying on the child protective system, and if it's not working, we need to get in there and understand what went wrong, why it's broken. If somebody blatantly and outright just didn't do their job, then they need to be punished for that. You can't just pretend nothing happened. That's not responsible. That's what we have right now with our government, is they're pretending that our child wasn't burned. They're pretending that these people didn't abuse her. They're pretending that we don't exist. How bizarre is that? That we can be down here reporting a federal crime and I don't see any law enforcement as far as the eye can see. They're not even going to come down here and talk to us about it because they know about it. And they're just not willing to hold themselves accountable. They want their system, and they don't care if the system works because the system is just designed this way.
Well, the system is working for them. The system is working for money like it was designed to do. It wasn't designed to work for people. We can talk about a constitution all we want, but that doesn't really matter when enough money's involved. We can't keep this up. Things have to change. They needed to change yesterday. But we have to fight now. We have to come together and fight.
We need to push this conversation into the mainstream. That's where the media really has control of everything, is they're deciding what our conversations are about. And right now, you know, what we're hearing is, oh, we're just gonna move on and be unified. But there's all this corruption going on in our system, just right here in our state. I mean, this happens to our child and we couldn't get any help anywhere or hold anybody accountable. It really changed the way I looked at America, because everything that was built here is a mirage. That's what it felt like, you know? We kept thinking, well, if we filed this complaint, or if we went to this person, or if we talked to this judge, or this attorney, or this or that something would change, that there would be some justice. But there's no justice. So if there's no justice here in America, no justice to be found, no law to be found, then what are they talking about on TV? They say we're a nation of laws. They say, you know, oh, nobody is above the law, this and that. Well, I know all of these people that are above the law, because they are basically the law, and they don't have to do anything for me, or my husband, or my daughter, or for most of you. We're all locked out. We're all at the mercy of whatever they want to do at the time. It has nothing to do with the law. They didn't want to put Todd and Amy in jail, so they were willing to risk our daughter's dying.
Yeah, our daughter almost died.
I mean, they sent her home with a massive traumatic injury. She
could have died at our house.
From infection and shock in her bed. And then what was the plan? I wonder, was the plan to charge us with abuse?
Probably. They would have came and locked us up for negligence.
Anything to keep these white people from even having to talk about what they did. Every leniency in the book that they could give them, they gave them.
No, they gave them even more than that. How is it that you can go into a court of law and admit to a federal crime and walk out of there scot-free?
Scot-free, too.
Not even any talking to. You don't even know that you did anything wrong.
To the point where we actually have neighbors saying to us that it was fine that they bathed our child and were playing naked with her and this and that. That's how delusional people in my own neighborhood, Southwest Portland, Maplewood neighborhood, got after this. That they would argue with me to my face and online that I'm being vindictive and mean by bringing this up. No, I didn't give these people permission to be doing what they were doing. I don't think what they were doing was acceptable. But they tell me that. Is that better? They have the audacity to say that me and my husband were the problem. Shut up. Go stand in a little corner somewhere. Nobody cares about you.
Yeah, they actually told us that it was Kadira's fault that she got injured.
It was her fault. It was the kid's fault.
It was her fault that she was abused.
And the fact that the hospitals didn't admit her and the police weren't called, that's all our fault. That's what they kept saying. It's all your fault. Why? Because they wanted to inflict severe emotional distress. Why? Because they wanted us to go commit a crime. Ask yourself, why would law enforcement try to stress somebody out to the point where they would go commit a crime? Why would you do that?
And we could have easily committed a crime.
I mean, why would you do that to two distressed parents who are reporting the abuse of our child? They left us in our neighborhood with these two people, and they didn't try to create any kind of buffer. So anything could have happened.
Yeah, really, they actually put a lot of people's lives in jeopardy. Because we could have easily went over there to their house, We could have killed these people. You know, I could have picked up a gun. I could have shot this guy in the face.
It was very, 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 very frustrating what we went through.
That's what they wanted to happen. They didn't really care. They just wanted us to, they wanted the ability to shut this thing down.
Any way they could, and it didn't really matter to them what happened. I mean, our daughter and this girl, they were at the same school. We went to Portland Public Schools. We said, we don't want our daughter around these people. They abused her. And they kicked our daughter out of the program.
Yeah,
she
they
was
told
in.
us.
They
They
said
told
the
us that
abusers,
she can leave the program.
the abusers can stay and your child can go, is what we were told. Everything that was done after our daughter was abused was to inflict severe emotional distress onto us. Law enforcement did that. And that's why they're hiding.
Because we never committed a crime. We did not do anything wrong. They did everything against the law, and they know it. That's why they don't want to talk to us about it.
And now they don't want to evaluate what happened. And I think it's pretty pathetic, once again, of the Willamette Week, of the Scanner, of the Oregonian.
Of KBOO.
Because I've written Nigel Jaquise, I've written Maxine Bernstein, I've contacted numerous journalists about this. Our system needs to take a good, hard look at this particular case. At this particular case, because way too many people got involved with covering up the abuse of this child. And way too many people got involved with abusing this child. People who are in positions of authority here in Oregon. And we're out here today because that's not acceptable. We're not just gonna say, oh, it's fine that there's criminals running the state.
It shouldn't be acceptable. It shouldn't be acceptable to any of you. It's not acceptable to us.
They'll come and fine anybody for breaking the law. They're fining these business owners simply because they're trying to make a living. They'll come in and slap a $150,000 fine on them, but Todd and Amy, no fine at all.
No.
No fine at all. At the hospitals, when they didn't treat our daughter, no fine at all. No nothing.
No, nothing.
You know, they're making all these decisions. They're deciding really if people live or die. And I'm sorry, but they're corrupt and they're involved in this. And I want to know, you know, how deep is this in our government? How bad is it?
Well, we know it goes. We know the governor's involved. We know that Ellen Rosenblum, the state attorney general, rubber-stamped this abuse herself.
She was on the appellate court when we appealed our daughter's case. She knew, they all knew that it was a case of child abuse, child neglect.
They all knew it was a crime.
Ellen Rosenblum gave these people money. That's probably why she's your attorney general today. She gave our daughter's abusers money and said we were wrong for trying to even try to appeal her case or ask about it. Because we couldn't understand how two adults who facilitated some sick game and mortally wounded a child were walking away without even a slap on the wrist. I'm talking, these people never even had to talk to the police.
They never even had to talk to DHS.
They were boss dog. They're still just doing whatever they want.
Yeah, these people are at large. We don't know if they've harmed anybody else. We don't know if there are other children who have been abused by them. The police have never looked at them. And it doesn't seem like they're going to, unless there's enough people calling for it. But right now, you can't even hear our story in the media, in the news. You've never heard about our story.
We have to tell our story down here at Pioneer Square.
Right now, we're just hearsay.
That's another scary thing. If it's not in the news, it's like it didn't happen. That's what's really frightening.
So how many other crimes are being covered up this way? How many other people have been victims by powerful people that they just glossed over, covered up? How long is this going to continue to go on? How long are we going to allow this to go on? Are we going to keep on allowing these people to commit crimes in our face? Are we going to sit around? Are we going to stand around and say, yeah, that's okay, that's fine? They could be criminals. The governor can be a criminal. Our Attorney General can be a criminal, that's fine. Our mayor can be a criminal, that's okay. We'll re-elect him. He knows about what happened to our daughter. He knows that it was a crime. We've gone to city council on multiple occasions. They know they're covering this up, and they're going to keep it covered up as long as people aren't involved. As long as they know that people don't care, they're just going to keep on covering up crimes. What's it going to take? What's it going to take for us to start looking at our system and saying, hey, what's going on here is not okay? It has to change. Biden's not going to change anything. He's part of the same corrupt system that is telling people that they don't matter right now. Our government is corrupt, and they need to be challenged. We have the right to come together and say no. We have the right, as citizens of this country, to make ourselves safe, to do whatever it is that we feel like we need to do to make ourselves safe. We have that right. That happens when we come together. That happens when we talk to each other about our stories, about the harm that we've experienced here. That happens when we agree that this is not okay, that this should not be going on, not in our country, not in 2021. But we have to come together and do that. These people are going to continue to control our lives. They're going to continue to harm us. You're going to continue to see bodies piling up in the streets. You're going to continue to see people not get health care. You're going to continue to see people not get proper education. There's so many ways that they're harming us. But we need you. We need to come together right now. We're going to be here every Friday. And the more people that come, the more people that listen, the more people that get involved, I believe we can change our society the way it needs to be changed. But we can't do it alone. We can't do it alone.
And it starts with holding these people accountable for what happened here in this situation. Because what did happen here in this situation? How did this happen? How did we walk into a hospital with a mortally wounded child and we were not questioned at all? How come she wasn't treated? OHSU, Providence, they have the answers. Law enforcement, our elected officials, we invite them. We invite them to come down here and talk to us. Talk to us right here in front of the citizens of this state and explain what happened here. Explain why none of their laws went into effect. Because something's really wrong here. Is there some sort of underground railroad system where abused kids are just filtered through OHSU and Providence? What's going on?
What is going on?
How many times are judges allowed to just look the other way and not apply the law?
How many times have judges committed crimes
and not been held accountable?
We don't even know the statistics on that.
Or attorneys. Your attorney can just lie to you and throw you under the bus, make backdoor deals, all kinds of stuff. You know, we as Americans, we're so divorced from these rights that we think we have. We are so divorced. We don't understand how to use them. And it was only because me and my husband pursued his case against his employer and pursued our daughter's case by ourselves as pro se litigants that we we began to understand how bad the problem is. Because Scott, my daughter's attorney, he was able to pull the wool over my eyes. I didn't understand that I shouldn't have been appointed her guardian ad litem. That was illegal. I didn't understand that I had a right to sit in on the depositions. So literally, I didn't even understand what happened for 16 months. But I can assure you, once I heard what those people were up to and really understood it and heard it out of their own mouths, we went straight to the police. And they did nothing.
They refused to investigate.
So that's when we started our own investigation.
No, they told us it was a crime, but they were just not going to investigate it. How does that work? How can you report a crime to the police and have them tell you, yeah, no, we don't look into that kind of thing? You don't look into crimes? Aren't you the police? Yeah, no.
It's pretty embarrassing. I don't know where law enforcement in this state is getting their marching orders from, but they look really dumb to me right now. I can't take any of them seriously. I laughed at the FBI, the new FBI director, I think his name's Kieran Ramsey or something like that. He's replacing Ren Cannon. They just look dumb to me because it's like,
they're not real.
They're not real. They're not really going to do their job. They're not really going to.
These are mirage. They're mirage organizations. They're phantom organizations. They're set up to make us believe that there is some kind of system here, some kind of justice, that you have some kind of choice. You don't have any choice.
It's just what they say goes. And in our situation, they say that no one is going to be held accountable for abusing our daughter, and we just disagree.
You are being subjugated right now by a system that does not care about you. They don't care about your rights. They don't care if you're a sovereign being on this planet.
And not only that, they take your money and they pay themselves handsomely to do no work.
To make sure that you stay.
I think that's what made me.
Brett.
Yeah, that's what made me the most livid during this. Is, are you kidding me? You're paying yourself how much to do no work? And then they say, oh, the people on welfare, they're not working hard enough, or these people aren't working hard enough. I'm saying no work.
Guess how much the EEOC investigator on my case, on my employment case is getting paid? It's like $190,000 a year.
To do nothing. I mean, he had a letter. Nike handed my husband a letter. It was a confession. They admitted that this went on, that something went on, and his investigator got paid to do nothing. So what are all these government institutions for? I mean, $190,000 a pop, $80,000 a year, all this and that. It comes out of people's tax dollars. These people don't do their jobs.
How does that work? If you didn't do your job, you'd probably get fired, right? Yeah, that's not anybody in our government.
Not when you get high up. Because the high-level people we deal with, they don't have to do anything, apparently.
And apparently they're above the law. All the laws that affect you and me, they're not subject to. How does that work? Is that how we want our society to continue to be run? Not at all. I agree. That's not how our society should be being run. Our society should be helping people. Our society should make sure that there are people who are sick and starving and on the streets. Our society should make sure that our children are protected and that they get proper medical care and a proper education. Why aren't we getting that?
No, what we get from our elected officials and our media right now is they entice us to violence. You know, go break something, that'll...
They want to turn you into a criminal. They want you to be a criminal so they don't have to pay any attention to you. But that's not the way we fight. We have to fight using our voices, and they need to be combined. We need to come together. That words matter. That's why we're out here.
And we're going to be out here every Friday. And we hope that this grows. And we hope that more people care enough to come and listen to us speak and also just get involved. You know, go home, talk to people about what you've heard.
Contact your representatives.
Contact your representatives. Contact the DA. Ask them about Kadira. Make a stink.
Write a letter to Wyden. Write a letter to Merkley. Write a letter to the FBI. Write a letter to the U.S. Attorney. Write a letter to the governor. Write a letter to the mayor, to city council.
Bother them about this. Bother them about this because they don't want to talk about it. They don't even want to hear her name. They don't want to hear our names. They don't want to admit that this system failed this badly and that they got caught. Because rest assured, they did get caught. Me and my husband, we documented everything. We documented everything. And it's filed in the court. And just because they're ignoring it doesn't mean that it's not there. They've been lying to the people of Portland. I don't know what's been going on with all these demonstrations and everything that's been going on here in the city. It's all very strange to me because I know what lies beneath. And it's this case. And it's the fact that our government here in Oregon has been covering this up. And it's news.
They just don't want you to know
It's
about
news. It's news when a politician's family member abuses a child in this manner. It's news when all these it's news when all these elected officials are involved in covering up a crime.
It's a federal crime. There are several statutes. But they don't want you to know that.
And I'm gonna say it again, the media in Portland embarrasses themselves.
They're complicit.
They are complicit. They don't want to talk about this because they don't want to talk about real change in our government. And that's what we need, is real change in our government. I'm tired of these figureheads. I'm tired of, oh, everybody just go home. Biden's president now. We're all just going to go back to being this moral, great place. That is a bunch of garbage.
Now, right? No, wrong. Nothing is going to be fine because we're not dealing with any of the real problems in our society. We're not dealing with the issue that money matters more than people. They're not going to talk to you about that. They're never going to say that to your face. But subliminally, all over the media, that's what they're trying to get us to believe, is that we don't matter. And they've done a really good job.
It's been really, really hard to even get people involved or to even listen to our story because people think we don't matter. And it's not that they just don't think that we don't matter, they think they don't matter.
They don't think they can make a difference.
I've heard so many people say to me, well, your daughter suffered, well, everybody suffers, get over it.
I bet you right now, everyone listening here, I bet you don't think you can make a difference, huh? But you can. Your voice matters. That is the only thing that matters. You matter. You are what is valuable. We have something inside of us that they cannot take away. That is our value. But they can make us believe that we don't have any if we give in to that idea.
And if you give in, then they silence you. And we will not be silenced. We're standing here in these sweaters that say, I am the value, because we remind ourselves every day that we matter.
We do that for us, we do that for our daughter, and we're doing that for you. Because you matter.
And because it's time for us to stop giving our lives over to these corrupt officials. There's nothing official about them.
They are not in charge.
And they are protecting criminals with impunity.
They're just trying to get us to believe that they are in charge, but they are not in charge. They have control over everything that makes us believe that they are in charge.
Honey, just giving you a call.
Thank you so much. But they are not in charge. You are in charge. We are in charge. We actually can say what's supposed to happen here. But we have to do that together. That's why they made us believe that we have some kind of democratic process, that we're involved somehow in our own decision making. That's not the truth. They are making the decisions for us, but they're getting us to believe that we are making the decisions. How many people here actually voted for Biden because they wanted to see Biden as our president?
How much choice are we getting when it's just the money that decides? We don't even get the best of the best anymore. I don't know if we ever got the best of the best. It's always about what the money wants. But it just seems to get worse and worse. It's like there is no decision. You have to have millions of dollars to even run for president.
If we have...
Or anything, for that matter. I mean, all these people that are supposed to be representing us, I mean, what they're really doing is chasing money. And they're not willing to talk about and deal with difficult issues. Because I've written these people, and I've tried to interface with them, and they run. They run like little babies. And I know I'm not the only one. I mean, I've talked to other parents who are being, you know, basically strangled by the system, disenfranchised. Parents who, like I said, kids have been removed for bruises or a broken arm. When our child, there was not even a single question asked because they didn't care what happened to her.
She almost died.
Our system cannot be this corrupt. It's one thing for people to make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake.
No, this
wasn't a mistake. This was
prolonged, coordinated action.
And it was wanton disregard for human life. They let her suffer with a massive injury, a massive traumatic injury. And next week we'll have a sign that shows the injury. It was really bad. And all she had was a little bit of Motrin. Because they were trying to downplay it and minimize it, and they just didn't care what happened to her, and they didn't care what happened to us. And that's what concerns me now. You know, we are at the mercy of these people. So, the caring government, they care. Well, how do they care?
They don't care about you.
They didn't show me that they cared.
They don't care about us. All they care about is money. That's all they want.
And they cared about protecting the people who were trying to hurt us. And they didn't care if they inflicted so much emotional distress that we came apart at the seams. And it's an embarrassment. Our system is an embarrassment, but it can be made better. We can try to fix it. We don't have to sit here and just accept, that all of our elected officials are corrupt. We don't have to accept that. You know, if we are going to let these people dictate what happens in our lives, there needs to be some trust. And right now, I have zero trust. You know, they're telling people to do all these things, and I don't know what to make of it because they tried to hurt my family. They tried to kill my daughter, and they won't explain to me why. But I'm just supposed to accept everything they're saying. You know, wash your hands, wear a mask, shut down your business, this and that. Well, when do they ever have to explain themselves? I mean, from what I understand, they've indemnified themselves of all liability if you're harmed by the vaccine. That doesn't seem fair. That doesn't seem like a caring thing to do. Why would you want to be indemnified? If somebody's harmed, you should want to help them. You should want to help them.
But they don't have to help you.
That should be a piece of the legislation. It shouldn't go the other way.
We shouldn't be being used as guinea pigs.
You should want to take care of somebody if they're hurt.
I'm afraid, actually. I'm fearful for the people that are taking this first round of vaccines. I don't know if help them.
I hope it does. I hope that there's some non-corrupt entity in our government that is here to protect people, but I worry. I worry because they won't tell me why they didn't treat my daughter. And I know they're lying to me because I spent a lot of time studying burn care after I finally figured out what they did was so wrong. And I realized that she needed so much care, more care than what she got, and that's why she has the problems she has today. That's why she went into organ failure. That's why she has osteopenia. That's why her leg snapped in half when she was like 11. and our dog just kind of hit her knee, and the whole leg just snapped in half. Because she has all these problems now, and the bone bruises where the burn was, I don't know. She had a massive infection. They didn't tell me about it. They just lied. And I get making mistakes, but this isn't a mistake. This is something you did on purpose. You did it on purpose. And I have to talk about it down here in the square because you're too much of a child to talk to me to my face. Because I've been to Providence and I've been to OHSU. I even tried to take legal action myself personally. And guess what? The judge didn't even want to make them explain because they don't have an explanation. It's never ending with these people. Just take responsibility for yourself.
But they're not going to do that because nobody's making them do that. How do we audit our own system? Where are the real checks and balances? They want you to believe that, oh, there's checks and balances in the system. No, there's not. When they commit crimes, there's nobody there to hold them accountable.
There are agencies where they say you can file a complaint, but within those agencies are just more people who are willing to cover up for the people who committed the crime. So for instance, in our case, when I went to the independent police review and said they weren't investigating my daughter's case, then they came back and said that the criminals, I guess in this case, opted for a civil trial. I'm sorry.
Did you know that you can opt for a civil trial?
Yeah, did you know
when you commit a crime?
Yeah.
Did you know that? Because I didn't.
You can opt for the civil trial, and then the police don't have to be involved. So when you commit a crime, opt for the civil trial.
Go ahead and say, I want to opt for the civil trial.
I have a letter from the independent police review saying that, just that, the most outrageous things you could ever imagine. I'm sure everybody would opt for the civil trial given that option. It just doesn't work like that. And they know that, but they have no problem blowing smoke in my face because they don't think I am anybody and they don't think anybody's ever going to listen. We got a problem. We got a problem here in Oregon, big time. We have a problem with the leadership. Governor Brown, Mayor Wheeler, they're complicit, they're not honest, they're not being truthful, and the media is lying to you. And they're not going to cover this because they don't want to talk about the failings of the system. I've been emailing the DA. I emailed them quite a bit about my daughter's case, and they just don't get back to me. They don't get back to me because they don't think I matter.
Listen, we're here. We're going to be here. We're going to continue to talk about the corruption. We're going to continue to talk about what should be going on in our country, not what we're all experiencing right now. Like I said before, representational government, it was obsolete at the advent of the telephone. Did you know that? Representational government was developed because we did not have the ability at the time when government was established to connect regions of people together. So they had to get representatives that collected the opinion of the people in each territory, and then they went to one central place. Well, now we have the ability to connect with each other all over the world.
Yeah, we are
directly. We don't need representatives. We don't need a president.
Especially representatives who aren't going to represent us. I mean, I've written all my representatives.
We don't need a Congress. What we need are people who care about each other, willing to work together. That's what we need.
And we
don't need people telling us what to do.
But first we need people to recognize that there's a problem. And that's why our commitment to our daughter, to our city, to ourselves, to our state, to our country, is to be down here every Friday telling our story. We're going to keep telling our story in the hopes that more people will want to tell their stories of corruption, because we have a serious problem and we need to look in the mirror and we need to start changing it. And it starts today, it starts every day, it starts with you, it starts with me.
It starts with us. And the more people that want to get involved, the better. The more people that don't agree with what's going on in our country, the better.
But we must remain peaceful.
Those are your allies.
But we should never be silent.
We have no reason to be silent. We have no reason to allow these criminals to stay running our government, running our country. They have no right to do that.
And they have no right to sit on there on the TV and pretend that they're so moral and educated when they're standing there lying. It really angers me when I see Governor Brown and Mayor Wheeler on the TV, when they sit there and lie. Joanne Hardesty, I wrote her office. You know, she's the one black woman on the city council. She won't even get back to me. You know, people get into these positions of power and they get their money coming in, and then they're just scratching someone's back for the rest of the time. They're in there, and they don't care.
They got their money. They don't have to care about you, not really.
They don't have to care when the system fails. What they care about is protecting the system so they can keep collecting money. Kind of like what we see going on with the churches, you know.
And it's
they'll hide the abuse so the coffers stay full. And that's pretty sad. That's pretty sad.
There shouldn't have to be a large group of people being abused for the law to be enacted.
And it's interesting here because we see the abuse. We see the abuse. There's the abuse they're covering up, but there's the abuse right out in the open because there's all these people just laying in the streets. What are we paying all these people to organize our society for when we've got all these people laying in the streets? Got all these people locked up in prison? What's going wrong?
It should not be about affordable this and affordable that. These are all the things that you should just be getting because you're here. Healthcare, education, free opportunities.
It's interesting, you know, that suddenly we're all concerned about everyone's health. When have we ever been all concerned about anyone's health on this planet? I don't see it. I don't see it. I see a lot of people just being thrown out to die, and nobody's cared up until this point. Now we have a pandemic and we're all running around in masks. I don't get it. I don't get it. Because where is the true caring? I don't see it. And I didn't see it, you know, the night my daughter was burned, or even in the last 14 years, because all I've seen is people standing around making excuses for nonsense. And that's gotta stop.
We can't continue this way. Things have to be different.
So, anyway, we're gonna wrap it up, but we're gonna be here next Friday. Friday from 2 to 4, every Friday. And as it gets to be summertime, we hope to see more and more people here. We're just gonna keep coming down here and telling our story. And at some point, maybe the guilty parties will want to come forward and say something. Maybe our Attorney General, Ellen Rosenberg, will come down here and admit to what she's been involved with. Maybe at some point our governor and our mayor and our law enforcement, they'll admit to what's been going on. And we'll actually get a resolution for our family. And maybe we can, if that happens, we can also insist that, you know, there be a full inside look into what's happening in our justice system, because me and my husband firmly believe that there is not a case that doesn't need an extra, you know, 100 pairs of eyes on it. There's a lot of people being disenfranchised by the legal system, by the prison system, by the CPS system. All of that needs to be looked at, because if one child, one 8-year-old child, can fall through the gaping cavern that was our system, then everybody's in trouble.
Nobody's safe here.
It's not possible. I mean, what happened to our daughter should not have been possible. It was just reported to too many people, too many doctors, teachers, lawyers, professionals officials of all kinds, judges. So there is something terribly wrong with our system. We are being lied to day in and day out, and we don't deserve this. You don't deserve it. We don't deserve it. Our children don't deserve it. I don't want to see my children live in a tyranny, and that's what has happened here in America. Something is terribly wrong. Something's wrong with our representatives. Something's wrong with our institutions. And it's up to the people to change that. And I'm going to say it again, we don't have to be violent. We just have to come together and talk and have this conversation more publicly. I'm sad that the media is ignoring this case. I'm sad that the media is ignoring justice for Kadira because we really need